lawyers. Our speaker for today is Mr. Nana Oketa. Nana is a transactional legal practitioner and infrastructure regulation specialist with a knack for commercial law practice and expertise in energy and utilities sector. He currently serves as a deputy manager, legal special projects in the Niger Delta Power Holding Company Limited, Nigeria's foremost power company, advising on several aspects of its operations, including the sale of more than 5,000 megawatts of power generation capacity and fuel intake arrangements to about 10 of its power plants, focusing on legal and regulatory advisory, projects and infrastructure, securitization and corporate finance, gas and electric power resale contracts, including cross-border sale of power. He's a good mixer that has straddled between contentious and non-contentious work. Having put in over a decade of legal practice, he has advised and represented a litany of clients in diverse areas of law involving complex but exciting big-ticket commercial transactions, cases particularly sovereigns, private equity, firms, multinational EPC companies, both foreign and domestic, upstream and downstream oil and gas operators, financing syndicates, regulatory bodies, non-governmental organizations, and governmental agencies. He is also involved in some business development drives, passionate about completeness and perfection in job delivery. He serves as a member of the Governing Council of the Corporate Council Forum of the Nigerian Bar Association. Distinguished colleagues, it is my pleasure this afternoon to yield the floor to my very good friend, Mr. Nana Oketa. Nana, the floor is yours.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Mr. Tobenna, and thank you everyone who has found time to join us this afternoon. My name is Nana, and I'm an attorney with Niger Delta Power Holding Company. No, I'm not. My name is Nan, and an attorney with Niger Delta Power Holding Company Limited. Can you hear me? Sarah, can you hear me?
For some reason, we can't hear you.
It's strange. I've unmuted myself. I'm not.
Sarah,
I can hear him. Yes, I can hear Mr. Nana speaking.
You can hear me.
Okay.
Oh, you can hear me, Sarah.
Thanks, guys, from the chat room. Can others confirm?
Yes, I can hear you.
No, they can't. Okay, some can.
No. I can see the chat. And
Nana, some can hear you. I don't know why I'm not hearing you myself. Sarah, can you hear Nana?
Maybe
Nana, I can hear him. I can hear him loud and clear.
Okay. Tobenna, I think it's your village.
I think you can continue because they are hearing you.
I think it's your village rule, Tobenna.
Continue.
Okay,
Must be me then.
Okay, no problem. And I'm an attorney with Niger Delta Power Holding Company, and it's quite a delight to be here. I'm also particularly happy that today I'm not here to discuss the energy law or maybe energy sector or commercial law. Simply here to talk business, and I'm happy that you guys have found time to join us. Just to share thoughts around personal branding for young lawyers. And of course, subsumed in that topic is the effective use of social media, the marketing options available for lawyers, appearance and good grooming, if the host permits, I want to share my screen so that you're able to see the presentation. If it is okay to do that right now, Sarah and Tobenna.
It's okay, go ahead.
Okay, okay. Gentlemen, as a way of commencing this conversation, the verge of the fourth industrial revolution. And as you know, the image of the lawyer is very important. The world has become a bit more competitive, including but not limited to the legal space. And so the determinants of whether you're hired as a lawyer by a client or hired by an in-house counsel as an external solicitor or engaged by your colleagues is dependent on a lot of metrics and variables as it were, regardless of lawyer's specialization and the organization where the lawyer works. And so your personal branding is important, extremely important. I would like to go through a few of these quotes just as a way of commencing the conversation. Lewis Hall said, when everyone notices how present you are, how thoughtful strength is, they'll start thinking of you as uniquely impressive. When you start up with good work, a focused expertise, and a clean, consistent message, you'll be well on your way to building a powerful brand. An entrepreneur, Gary, said, your personal brand is your reputation, and your reputation in perpetuity is the foundation of your career. So essentially, in this context, as Tobenna would always say, the only thing a lawyer has is his reputation. I decided to pick this portion of the scripture, and regardless of, I think this will be of general application, regardless of your religious inclination. There was this portion of the Bible where Jesus had finished, performing a miracle. He had healed a blind man. I think it was somewhere in Caesarea Philippi, I'm not very sure now. But what is of importance was that after performing that miracle, he asked his disciples, who do people say the Son of Man is? And they replied, some say you're John the Baptist, others say you're Elijah, and others Jeremiah, or one of the prophets. But what about you? Who do you say I am? He asked them. So I'm here this afternoon to ask you, who are you? Who do people say you are? Although Jesus had the competence to perform all of that miracle, the way people perceived him and his personal brand was very important to him. And so, who are you and what is your identity? Because for me, this is what your personal brand revolves around. Who are you not? Who are you here for? And how do you stand out proud? To answer this question, you must understand or identify what your value proposition is. What is the differentiator between you and other? Why should I hire you and not? Why should assume what see? And maybe to take this further, I would like to start by, making a notation as to what brand is not, because I've had a lot of conversations or divergent definitions as to what a personal brand is. So let's start by talking about what personal brand is not. When I ask you who you are, I don't expect that you simply appearance, the way you look. Your logo is not personal brand. The symbol, maybe that you identify as a personal brand. That is your face. It's a promise. Perhaps closely related to it is impression. But impression is also not a personal brand. I can understand why maybe advertisers or people who are in the business sector would want to sell impressions because of, they say first impressions and all of those matter. But impressions are, isn't your personal brand. Impressions will probably just bring you traffic, make people look your way, but it shouldn't keep them there. So your personal brand is not your impression. What then is your personal brand? I like to say that your personal brand is your reputation. It is your character. It is the traits that are unique to you that helps you maximize your potential. The value proposition that you deliver to your clients, your peers, and outside of the firm, and colleagues, as well as the lasting mark you make on your industry, is your personal brand. Because when a client engages you, it is built on a lot of trust. It is some gravitas. And so he believes in your competence to deliver, laced with your character, your personality, those qualities that are uniquely yours. That is your differentiator, that is, upon which everything you do, your person, is built on. And so for me, it presupposes the unethic, of the true you, while you consistently and constantly live your brand. So it is important that we understand as young lawyers, well, I can still lay claim to that fact, even though I'm slightly above 10 at the bar now, but I still consider myself young. I don't know if Tobin would agree, but we must understand, the importance of building and communicating that uniqueness about us. And so your personal brand must be very clear, focused, it must be succinct. It cannot be all over the place. You cannot be moving from point A to point B every time. You're not a pendulum. It is important that when people speak about you as a young lawyer, that there is some indication of consistency of character as your person. When people say who, or maybe ask someone else, or maybe talk to my friends or colleagues and they say, who is Nana? What exactly do they say about me? So it is important that we understand that our personal brand is built on the perception of others about us. Let me tell you this quick story. In December 2010, I was in Tel Aviv, in Israel, and a friend of mine asked that we go to Jerusalem for, just to see some holy sites. Upon checking the hotel in Jerusalem, my room was boggled. I went downstairs and then spoke to the receptionist, whose response was, really? Incidentally, a young lady. I asked to speak to the porter, and I was directed to the porter, a good-looking young lady who I felt knew what she was doing. And, her response was, she simply just feigned ignorance. I spoke to the third person, who also happened to be another lady, unfortunately, but, the manager of the hotel, and her response to me was, not everything in the Holy Land, just a few items. I walked out, I left Jerusalem and then went back to Tel Aviv, with that impression about the hotel. And of course, I made sure to tell all my friends who had any business there, either going to Israel or pilgrimage or for some other business, not to use that hotel. So it is important to understand that your personal brand is dependent on the stories and the memories that other people have about you. So your personal brand is dependent on what your friends say about you when you're not there. In consideration of this conversation, although let me say on the side that my friend had made a joke about it, that not only was I room boggled, but I had also been rejected by 3 women. But that's an aside. But in consideration of this, in essence, what I'm trying to say is that your personal brand, I left that place, knowing that the reputation of the hotel and the individuals who run the place, although cited in Israel, was not as good as it should be. But it is important to think that in identifying your personal brand, that you'd have to define your proposition, your value proposition, as we had mentioned earlier. So you'd want to ask yourself as a young lawyer, what are your most unique professional qualities? What are your core values? Why is your practice different from that of others? What are your passions? What are your strengths, your weaknesses? Why should I hire you over someone else? What are your clients looking for in their external counsel? Is there an unserved market or some need that is yet to be met somewhere that I need to fill? These are things that define who you are and your personal brand as a young lawyer. as a lawyer. I'm not a businessman and all of that. And, my response has always been that, simplicity to cultivate a personal brand will help you stand out. You're different, you're beautiful the way you are, you have the capacity and qualities that are unique to you. There is no other you outside of you. So you must believe in yourself. So your personal brand helps you differentiate yourself from your peers. It also helps you create trust between you and your clients or even potential clients. Because having heard the story of others, trust in your ability to not just deliver, but in your as a person. It increases your authority in a field. Remember that, most times your personal brand would also dovetail into your area of specialization. And so you are able to communicate with some level of authority, okay? And then in the next, you showcase where your talents and strengths are. As an in-house counsel, for example, that has had the opportunity of hiring external solicitors, I can tell you that it is not the firm that we hire. It is the lawyer, it is the individual. And so when we're talking to you, yes, your firm is important. It matters because, you probably would want you to come from a firm with some pedigree, but we're looking to your individual capability as a person. We're looking at your personal brand. So it is a lawyer that we would hire. So I would hire Tobedna Erujikwe, not necessarily law crest, as it were, because I am sure about this personal brand, and that is what I am looking out for. Again, for a lawyer, just a continuation. In 2008, had a mini survey and found that over 70% employers research their job applicants online, and so when you turn in an application to be hired, either you turn in the application to a law firm or to any organization or a multinational, they will most likely do a quick search to see what they find about you. Now, in 2022, Legal Service Consumer Tracker, also had a bit of a study regarding how consumers, choose legal services. And the results show that about 43% of the consumers are shopping around for legal expertise, as opposed to just 13% in 2021. So 82% of these people who they had spoken to, said that reputation was the most important factor in determining whether they hire, a lawyer or not. Now, searching on the internet was also the fourth most popular way of selecting legal services from the same, Legal Services Consumer Tracker. The truth is that we live in a digital age, and you cannot afford to be absent. You must be present online, okay? The Popular McKinsey, of course, also conducted, their own study in relation to personal brand, and found that strong brands almost always outperform, their competitors, who are even, some more recognizable than they are within a particular industry. So today's clients are belief-driven. They must have that gut feeling about you to be able to work with you as a professional. I'm not going to hire an engineer, for example, to build my house if I am not sure about his personal brand and what the integrity of the project will look like at the end. If I am also hiring if I'm also going into a project, for example, in the private sector, it is also termed as a lawyer that you are bankable, that you will deliver, and that when we give you a job, there will be some measure or some high degree of return in terms of your on-job delivery. So essentially, personal branding can also help you connect with your clients and make you more visible, enhance your reputation. And ensure that you stay top of their mind. For me, talk about who you are, and you are Siemens twins, and there were two completely different individuals in terms of personality. While Ladan wanted to be a lawyer, Lale wanted to be a journalist, and this failed to every they did, or their thought processes, and it's that surgery. And in filling out the form before the surgery, they wrote, we would rather die as individuals than live without an identity. So the question is, why do you want to be like every other person? Unfortunately, Ladan and Lale did not survive that surgery, but they insisted, that they had to go through it because they were, although CMS twins and identical in all respects, as you can see from the picture, there were two different individuals and, had their objectives and aims and, they had tailored their lives individually the way they wanted to be. And so when you even talk about your personal brand as a person, interrogating that within yourself, it is important to note what Adam Smiley said when he said that when you, in talking about your personal brand, you must find your focus. You must have a niche for yourself, and also a niche within that niche that you have carved for yourself, because personal branding is specific. Is specific to you. It is not, your personal branding is not how your mentor behaves or how he acts or how someone you look up to behaves. No, it is about you. It is appropriated to you as a person. That now leads us to decide how to build a strong personal brand. I think the first thing is that you must do your job well in furtherance of the skill sets that you have, having determined that. You must also fine-tune your focus and become a thought leader in whatever industry or environment you find yourself. You must be able to give value. It is also important that you strive to become an expert in that field and network properly. You must believe in yourself and speak up. You cannot continue to hide. Lawyers do this a lot, but it is important that you understand the act of humble brag. If you do not blow your own trumpet, nobody will blow you. Other people will take up opportunities, that have it. And you must be actively involved in the industry. You must be actively involved. And these days, like I said, we are in the digital age. So you must have a professional LinkedIn profile. You must, bolster your bio. Your information must be very visible for everybody to see. You must also leverage public relations. This is extremely important. Of course, into the networking that we have talked about, and you must say yes a lot. Opportunities, be open, be within your niche or difficult. Let me say that as a person, I never thought I would find myself working in the energy sector. I was a law firm. I was okay. I was very fine. I was slowly growing in the profession, but at some point I felt it was time to take a step, and I finished out of the work. But over time, it was very clear in the organization that I work as to the kind of value I do my work. So I had to slowly learn the act of working in the sector. So nobody is saying, that when you say yes to opportunities, come your way, that the expectation is that you boost your career. The expectation is that you would also learn the ropes and hone your skills in that regard. You must also want to learn it. You must be open-minded. You are not God and you are not all-knowing. So it is important that your mind is open and you're able to, learn from what other people do. Also proactively seek out opportunities. Do not wait for them. We don't get manna falling from this. opportunities. So you must to seize the opportunity. It's important that you understand your audience. You must know your audience. You must know the people to engage. And then what I would like to say finally, for you to integrate your personal brand, into your business strategy. In this sense, following all of these conversations and engagements,
Are you still there?
Yes, I think I lost you guys for a minute.
Yeah, we lost you too for a minute, but that's fine.
Yeah. Can you hear me? Yes, I'll continue. I think I lost you guys for a few seconds there. So in dealing with your personal brand, do not reach yourself. Be very focused. Target your efforts within your niche. You must also be able to communicate, the uniqueness in you that distinguishes you from other people and other lawyers. You must be able to communicate that to people who are looking. Take some time to think about your career goals. What do you want to do? Do you want to within yourself, before even talking to another person, communicate that to yourself? Your personal brand must also communicate authenticity. There has to be consistent of character as well. It has to communicate effectiveness and efficiency. And so there must be a differentiating factor between you and other people. When you look at the big brands, for example, they really do not, the big firms, the big corporations, they really do not change their brand. So it is important that you remain consistent with your brand. So your personal brand will help you communicate from having to go through all of that. You're successful as the relationships you build across different fields, which of course will feed you
No, you're muted. I don't know why.
I don't know. I don't know what's going on with the internet. I apologize about this. It keeps coming off and on.
We can hear you now. Yeah, we can. Thanks.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So to end the conversation, on the overarching scale about your personal Brandon as a young lawyer, I would want to say that God has made all of us first-class originals, and you should not die a second-grade copy. Do not try to copy anyone else. You're unique in yourself, in your ability, and in the capacity that you have. You do not have to be anyone else. So it is important that as young lawyers that we understand this. That leads me to the next component of this conversation, which is acceptable option for personal marketing. For me, I call it, for lawyers in Nigeria, I call it the green light, technique. Within the rules of professional conduct for lawyers, particularly Rule 39, as we know, limited advertising is permitted for lawyers in Nigeria, of course, subject to certain caveats, which is that your advertising must be proper. You must not compare yourself or your practice with that of another lawyer or criticize that lawyer. The advertising must not mislead or be inaccurate. But then, notwithstanding that notwithstanding those provisions, it is also important to note that soliciting and touting are clearly prohibited within the rules of professional conduct. The expectation as young lawyers is that we all know this, and so this is just an orientation exercise to refresh our minds about the provision of the rules. Now, when you look at Rule 39 sub 4, it says that nothing in this rule shall preclude a lawyer from publishing in a reputable law list or law directory a brief biographical or informative data about himself, including all or any of the following matters: his name or names of his professional association, his address, telephone number, just information relating to his contact or his qualifications or the school he attended, whatever mementos or national honors that he might have, or his membership of the bar associations and whatever his roles and rules are. And so that provision clearly qualifies the general provision that I had mentioned. All of this falling under improper attraction of business. I'm sorry, there are a lot of slides and I'm trying to go through them within the time allowed. I'm sure that the organizers of this orientation will be happy to share the slides to disseminate the slides so that anybody who is interested, would have a bit more in-depth study of the conversation that we're having this afternoon. Rule 40 says...
No, take your time, it's okay.
Okay.
Take your time, it's okay, yeah.
Okay, no problem. A lawyer may cause to be printed on his notepaper, envelopes, and visiting card, his name and address, his academic and professional qualification. A lawyer or a law firm, as you would have noticed, are able to display at the entrance or at the outside of their office building, inscriptions that clearly show that the firm is resident at the place. Where a lawyer also writes a book or an article for publication, in which he gives information on the law. He may add his professional qualification after his name, indicating his competence or specialization in this regard. On a change of address, telephone number, or contact information, a lawyer is also allowed to send same to his clients simply for informative purposes. On this next slide, a young man has his briefcase, and then, of course, improperly trying to attract business as it is. So for me, advertising would ordinarily, essentially be defined as paid messages placed in any mass media, with an identifiable sponsor to persuade the members of the public or a particular target audience about the products or services or ideas that one offers. To define promotion would be to to engage in promotion would be to convey yourself as a professional through your brand, through your personal brand, that we're talking about this afternoon. To solicit means that you're essentially begging for brief. And this is prohibited under the rules of professional conduct. And to now tout would be to solicit, for clients or patronage in a very brazen or crude manner. The reason I decided to provide this definition is that sometimes there's usually, misinterpretation as to, what level of advertising is allowed, and at what point of this advertising does it become, solicitation of briefs, which is forbidden. I would like to call to aid the very popular case of LPDC versus Gani Fahimi, where Gani Fahimi had written a book, and in trying to convey this to the public, an inscription was made on it, and it said, a new book on Nigerian Constitution titled Nigerian Constitutional Law Reports, 1981, Volume 1, edited by Chief Gani Fahimi, the famous, reputable, and controversial Nigerian lawyer. Now, conveying his competence was not the problem, but the statement clearly talked about how famous he was, the fact that he was reputable, indicative of his success rates, and that he was famous, which was an improper way of attracting business. Now, the reason this is so is that although lawyers engage in the legal business, we are not in ourselves, businessmen, and so we cannot be advertising, like businessmen and projecting ourselves in a way that suggests that we offer, better practices or that we have better competences, than our colleagues. Because your advertising under the rules must be fair and it must be proper. On the next slide, I want us to look at how to market yourself as a lawyer. So as a young lawyer, how do you market yourself? The first is in the quality of the work that you do. When you file a court process, when you draft an agreement, whatever work it is that you do as a lawyer, it must convey such level of competence that whoever sees it would want to ask, about the lawyer who probably has midwifed this engagement, if it is a contract, or who has prepared this court process. And so the quality of your work is the first way to market yourself as a lawyer. The second one is building, relationships and networking. You must get engaged in the industry events or associations within your area of practice. At this age, at this time, I can tell you that, people, lawyers, from every part of the world, almost can work remotely these days. The amount of and the quantum of work that people get online, either from LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, and all of the other social media platforms are incredible. So you must be present. You must be present online. And the information you put out must also be well designed and informative in a way that it conveys, your competence. Like we had said earlier, it is also important that you establish yourself as a thought leader within your industry, in your own niche. That is a very viable way of marketing yourself as a lawyer in a way that it will be proper and fair and will not be interpreted as crude in any way. So how do you market, dealing with the specifics now, how do you market yourself the right way as a young lawyer? One of the most important things you can do for yourself is to become an expert in your area of practice, whether you're in the oil and gas sector, whether you do corporate law, whether you're a litigation lawyer, whatever it is that you do, whatever area you find yourself, you must become a leading expert in that area. You must also fulfill what I like to call the lawyer's positive brand, which is about his character. what is about his person. So beyond being a good lawyer, it is important that you're also a good human being. You must also develop, a very subtle way of selling yourself to potential clients. Maybe I should say this, it is just like what you find in the African context where, I'm just saying this on a side, where a man will be the one to go after a lady he wants to marry. But ladies have become more daring these days that they give you the green light. So the lawyer's attitude to finding briefs and marketing himself well must be like giving a client the green lights to say, hey, look, I'm here and I might be able to offer you some service without, doing it in a way that it begins to irritate the potential client. And the only way to do this is that you're present, you become available. Again, like I said, your social perception is important. The way people see you, your personal brand, like I said, is essentially dependent on the memories people have of you, following their engagement with you, or the stories that other people tell about you to the hearing of people who could become your potential clients. And so the way people see you, your social perception is important. Professional development, we cannot talk about it enough, just like the orientation exercise that we're going through now. It is important that we continue to grow and develop and become, more specialized in the industry where we work. It is also important that we're consistent and systematic. You cannot become, like the shifting winds. You have to be very consistent in what you do, in communicating your personal brand and in living it out as a lawyer, so that when people or clients see you, they know what to expect. For new Wigs, it is also important for you to seek out mentors, people to look up to. And, these are, of course, sometimes you're not able to engage with the people you admire personally, but it's also important, it is also proper for you to admire them from a distance. A few years after I was called, I always looked forward to seeing particular lawyers in court, because it was impossible to meet them in court or hear them do their matter in court and not learn one or two things. And so, but beyond their competence in doing their matter, it was also the way they carried themselves. It was also about their personal brand. So it is important from a distance to also look, to see what it is that, how does your mentor behave? How does he speak? How does he talk? How does he engage with people? So that you can also learn from them. And then, of course, with for those you can engage, you can also engage them, and then trying to reach out to as much people as possible. I have a colleague who is a very good friend of mine who, in the last 2 years, one of the things he's taken on is to see that he pairs young lawyers with very senior lawyers in a way that you can have lunch or dinner, with this potential mentor of yours, and then you're able to share ideas. There's some cross-pollination, of ideas regarding your career goal, whatever challenges you have and what you do. And he's been incredible at doing it. But you can also, as a person, seek out mentors and then do this for yourself. The next subtopic of this personal branding would be effective use of digital and social media. Of course, while discussing the other sections, I've made allusions to this in passing, but we can all agree that the use of the internet generally, and then particularly social media, has skyrocketed in the last 2 decades. Between 2011 and 2021 in the USA, the number of internet users increased up, from approximately 241 million people to about 302 million. Now, and there is some projection that, by the year 2025, there will be, further increase in this regard. And there are a lot of statistics you can check out, even with your friends, people around you, family members. It is difficult to really find anyone these days, especially, people within, your age bracket or our age brackets, that does not have some form of social media presence. And this is also an important way of building your personal brand, because this is even more more important, because you're not just engaging, you're not just putting yourself out there before people who you already know or in your circle, but you're essentially trying to project your personal brand to the world. So social media essentially provides the platform for consummating, transactions that, some years ago, we did not imagine, was possible. And lawyers, around the world continue every day to leverage social media. Today, whether it's on LinkedIn, on Instagram, and on Twitter, people get engaged every day. I know friends who are in Nigeria, but do a lot of legal work beyond the shores of Nigeria, and do a lot of cross-border engagements, and they get paid in Forex for this. So social media is no longer a good to have. It is now essential if you want to succeed, in the legal space today. It is important to note that when you establish an online brand, you are essentially, developing a name, some name recognition for yourself and building trust between you and your prospective clients, because, just by a touch of a button, they can see who you are and see what your personal brand is. This identity that you must have, it is important in today's digital world. It is essentially important. We cannot overemphasize it. And so individual lawyers can enhance their own reputations, and facilitate greater reach even for their firm. And so you're able to bring in more business for your organization, because law is essentially a business, even though we do not practice like businessmen. We're in this business to make money and advance our career. That is the truth. We must also acknowledge that this is not always easy, especially for lawyers, because law is a very conservative profession. But then, like I've said, you must to build, before you set out to build your personal brand, you must define your reach and what your target audience is. So that makes it a bit more easier for you to communicate your personal branding out there to enable you to stand out from the crowd. There are a lot of remote opportunities on LinkedIn and on various social media platforms, but you must be ready to seize this opportunity. People must be able to see you, you must be present, because, out of sight, is out of mind. Some people would want to ask, what is the business of the lawyer with social media? Of course, just like we had, talked about in the preceding slide, this one, to establish your brand, you need to show up in a lot of places online. And this requires producing content in other places. Now, on regular basis. Regular blogging is also one of the best ways to keep your name out there and to put your content out there that clearly, identifies you as someone connected to a specific personal brand, which is the differentiator between you and other lawyers. Whatever reputation you have or your personal brand will trump whatever marketing strategy or skill you deploy in area of your competence. And so while it is important that you're a competent lawyer, it is also important that you're careful about your reputation. Now, this is also important with the use of social media, because people are mostly going to hire you from what
Nah, we can't hear you for some reason. Sarah, can you hear Nanda?
No, I can't hear him again.
I think we've lost Nanda. Okay, now we can see you now. We lost you for a moment.
Yes, okay, thank you. So how do you leverage social media as a lawyer? As you would have noticed, most law firms have websites these days where they put out information about current happenings in the legal space, and also providing, whether they've authored some articles and all of that information, and they put out professional websites. So it is important to have one. You also have to utilize the power of content marketing. You can do this either by videos or by articles and whatever it is you write, by commenting on contemporary legal issues. How do you also do this? You can do this by polishing your social profile. You must be able to convey the personal brand that you would want. You have to also position yourself in a way that you're visible. I find that a lot of lawyers are on social media platforms, whether it's on LinkedIn, on Instagram, everywhere, but they are never there. You're not well positioned to seize the opportunities that exist. So people open social media pages and then disappear, and then you never get to see them. And then when you even try to DM them to get some information or engage them, you don't get any response. It would almost be like asking someone who, maybe my great grandfather to send an email. It is quite unfortunate that in this year and age, we still find that this is the case. You must also manage your online reputation in line with what your core values, are. Get published as much as possible. Write on contemporary legal issues or areas of your areas of interest, because this is what will prick the minds of potential clients to want to engage you, or even law firms who might want to get you under their employ. Also participate in speaking opportunities where you're able to convey your competence and your character. For me, all of these are ways you could leverage on social media to achieve or propagate your personal brand. Let's look at content creation, which is essentially the fulcrum of your social media engagement. So you might want to ask yourself, now this is in relation to your content. Every digital marketing technique is built on these questions. And they are, why do I have to be on social media? Of course, you have to be on social media because you need to advance your personal brand. And there is no other better way, no other better medium for doing that. Who is your target audience? Who are you looking to engage, to interact with? So whatever content you put out there, whatever information you put out there must resonate with your target audience, just like every other business would. What would I share on social media? A lawyer would always have contents to share, information, articles, videos, podcasts. Some even provide legal advice on social media online. Whether it is proper or not is a different kettle of fish. But the truth is that I find that people who are generous with knowledge would always want, have people engage with them. Because as a lawyer, you must also be always, you must always be able to, bring your knowledge to bear, without condescension. You must be able to help people out there. When do I share my content? Timing is very important. Timing is very key. The timing of the content share is incredible. You cannot afford to be sharing your content at the wrong time. I'll give an example. If there is some popular information or news as to someone, or a lady or a man, being sexually abused, it will not be the right time for you as a young lawyer, a lawyer, to begin to advance your reasoning as to why, or as to what the defenses will probably be in matters like that, when you're dealing, that the community or the environment or your target audience is dealing with, some very sensitive issue. So the timing of the content you put out there is almost as important. In fact, it is better that you do not put out any content than putting it out at the wrong time, being perceived as incompetent or insensitive. A lawyer must learn to use the storytelling technique for the content you share to be effective. You must resonate with the audience, we said. They must also be able to relate to it. The information you put out, they must be relatable. And so when you use the storytelling technique, you're able to captivate your audience a lot more. People listen to you better. You must also schedule your posts, just like we had mentioned, timing is important. You must engage and partner or try to reach out to people who are very influential on social media. We're not saying solicit help from them, but the more you engage with people like this who are more visible than you are, the more visible you become yourself. It's also important that you have, some metric, okay, for tracking the user content you put out there and then leveraging on it to advance your personal brand. And so it is beyond putting out the content there. You must also be able to monitor and the contents, information you put out there for the interaction that it gets and the further engagement it gets to advance your personal brand. For example, if you put out a legal opinion and people are having to comment and ask questions about it, it is important that you come back to provide clarifications to whatever queries they may have in that regard. Now, it is also vital for us to look at what a challenge could be when we talk about the use of social media to advance your personal brand. As we know, both in Nigeria and essentially every part of the world today, the opportunity that has been provided by social media is also being leveraged upon by unscrupulous people to do very wrong things. Also issues about fraud, impersonation, infringement of intellectual property involved. Now, these intellectual property infringements, over time have impacted businesses, the contents they put out there, and the information they put out there, to advertise their products or their services. And this would also naturally be the case for a lawyer. Now, this is a serious challenge because most times the businesses or the owners of these social media pages, would have to abandon their social media and not put out content. And unfortunately, up till today, we still do not have tailor-made legislations to prevent the violation of IPR rights, specifically on social media. In Nigeria, probably except for the provision of Section 15 of the Copyright Act, under which a person may be held liable for secondary copyright infringement, and Section 25 of the Cyber Crimes Prohibition Act, which deals with the penalty for these infringements on the internet, on computer network. We do not have a straight-jacketed legislation that regulates IPR infringements on social media. So we hope that as the world advances, that we're able to make the country would come up with, with this. My general thoughts on the use of social media is that you must think outside the box. You must get out of what you're used to. A lot of us are just used to LinkedIn and Facebook and Twitter and then all of that. It is important for lawyers to begin to leverage, the platform that Instagram and Google Analytics, provides. Instagram would always allow you, some level of native advertising focused on your audience, unlike what you're trying on Facebook, which is essentially, engaging with people. Instagram also has, of course, young lawyers. You probably know this better than I do, but that the number of Instagram users is as at 2020. Which is just last year, is over 2 billion. like minds. Same with Google Analytics that provides you some of the best tools, that you can leverage for, excellent personal branding. And, on a general, in the overarching scale, beyond increasing the reach of your business or your personal brand and driving, sites to yourself, site traffic to yourself, social media engagements will essentially mutate into more business for you, the advancement of your personal brand, and you're able to communicate better with your target audience. It's also been argued that social media provides the platform not just for you to pitch, your business, but a platform helps you communicate and portray your values while advancing your personal brand. So beyond just putting yourself out there and leveraging social media for business, it helps you gain some measure of fulfillment because the world, as we know it, have become a global village and we're all interconnected. And so from here in Nigeria, you can engage with your peers or potential clients all over the world. The next of this conversation today, which I believe we already know and should know, like I said, this orientation exercise is just the effort of the ICLE to continue to familiarize us with that which we already know, is personal appearance and good grooming for a young lawyer or for a lawyer generally. As we know, the expectation is that the legal profession is distinct from other professions. And the expectation also is that a lawyer must appear in a dignified and proper manner, without wearing ornaments or apparels that will attract, all manner of attention to him or her, to himself or herself. The legal profession is a very conservative profession and a sober one at that. And the appearance of a lawyer is an indispensable aspect of the legal profession, founded on very long tradition. And so the lawyer is expected to appear a particular way because the way you look is important. It matters that when it comes to your social perception, especially regarding your appearance and the way you dress, that you do that in line with provisions of the rules of professional conduct, and and that which is allowed within the legal profession. Rule 36 of the RPC specifically deals with this, and it provides, when in the courtroom a lawyer shall be attired in a proper and dignified manner, and shall not wear any apparel or ornaments calculated to attract attention to himself. Going to subsection F, it says, within this bar or where the lawyer's robes, sorry, I think there's some mistake that I was trying to read it out, but what the provision, that particular provision, subsection is saying that the lawyer is not expected to wear his court robes while he is representing himself in court. So there are defined instances where the legal attire cannot be worn by the legal practitioner, and this is contained also within the RPC. Dark colored suits, white shirts, white wing collar, and detachable collars, white bib, black socks, black shoes, and then all of that. And of course, this is clear and of general application, both to male and female members of the bar. It is so serious that do not appear in the proper manner. It will even deprive your audience in court, and the court will simply tell you that they cannot hear you. Just to emphasize this point, I would like to read the remark by the Revered Honorable Justice Chukwudifu Okuta, Justice of the Supreme Court. And he said, I will add that to the advocates, dress definitely does make a difference. Akin to and complementary with good conduct manners in the appearance of the advocate. The lawyer appears always neat and presentable. Every great advocate is an actor before a very learned and critical audience. On stage, each actor looks his best. His dress is clean and his appearance well-groomed and gratifying. Why should the lawyer actor be different? Dress in an index of personality. Clean dress habits is just an outward expression of a deep inner trait, a trait which itself underlines clean work, clear pleadings, and clean legal battles. It is not therefore asking too much of from our advocates to demand that they pay sufficient attention to their appearance. Clean shirts, clean white collars, polished black suits, shoes, and a dark suit that is still serviceable. These are all that is required of an advocate. And while he was, regretting the existing position, he further lamented, yet still how often in actions does one witness the ugly spectacles of lawyers appearing shabby and dirty with white shirts, colored brown or off-white, with dirty white collars and equally dirty and rumpled bibs, unpolished shoes, and the dark suits that is anything but well kept. He then ended, on the advisory climax because he was advising, members of the legal profession, and he said members of the bar. He said, "This is not good enough. In any event, it is not good advertisement for the advocates. Ugly sights repel, and the advocate will not wish to repel by his appearance the very court whose attention he seeks to win." So your personal appearance is core to your personal branding. Your grooming is important. When people look at you and feel that you do not, look like a lawyer, that your attire is not proper, it will be difficult for them to begin to, try to differentiate your look and the fact that you're a lawyer and still engage you when you look the way you look. And over time, in the last few years, we have seen infractions, in this respect. And the expectation is not that a lawyer would wear, in fact, the rules forbid that a lawyer, wears very expensive clothing and all that. So the expectation is not that a lawyer wears bespoke suits all the time, the costliest shoes in the world and all of that. The expectation is that you're proper, that you dress, in the right manner, and that you're clean, and that you're able to advance your personal brand properly. When we look at the next slide, we see indications of infractions in this respect. Why one beautiful young lady who happens to be a lawyer, is wearing, something I don't know how to describe what she's wearing, but she's in a white attire. And the other one wears, some trouser that is completely transparent. Now, the reason I also chose to pick out these things was because these were pictures that clearly were taken, during the celebration of the call to bar events, ceremonies, and all of that. This is an improper way of dressing. This is not acceptable in any way, and it does not advance your personal brand as a young lawyer when you appear in this manner and even have, the temerity, to put this in the public space for people to see. Now, in following the call ceremony of 2020, a lawyer named B&M Esquire wrote a petition titled "Urgent Call to Redress Dress Code Misconduct and Unethical Conduct and Disrepute to the Legal Profession." And he addressed it to the chairman of the Legal Practitioners Disciplinary Committee, reiterating the respect and sanctity, that is supposed to be according to the lawyer's garb and the way you appear as a young lawyer, and he emphasized, Rule 45(2)(a) of the rule of professional conduct in this regard. Now, the worrisome thing, what we find also worrisome is not that these pictures are also are just taken during the call to bar ceremonies. We've also seen someone do a pre-maternity shoot and also use, while she had her gown on and then all of that with tummy, exposed to the public glare, she put out this picture in the public space. And it was also in this respect that the lawyer that I had cited above, was also writing, and he stated, the legal practitioner's robe and garb, which includes our wig and gown, has been extremely abused and reduced to a non-standard by our colleagues who deem it fit in gross violation of the rules of professional for legal practitioners to wear same rule above was made to cure was an abuse of the lawyer's rule. Such abuse is wanton and uncontrolled. It has been said that the dress of a lawyer, wears, whether in or out of court, must be tidy, respectable, sober, not flamboyant. Sadly, this is not the case today. So it is important that as young lawyers, in trying to advance our, personal brand, that we dress in the right manner. For me, your dress code as a lawyer is, for me, it epitomizes discipline. It is a symbol of your confidence. If you dress properly, you're more confident. You have some spring on your stride. You're able to engage better. You're able to do your matter better. You're confident in yourself, and you project the legal practitioner, the legal practice better. It is the symbol of our profession as lawyers, and so it is important that we cherish it and hold on to it. It comes from a long-standing tradition of what we've inherited of a conservative profession, and this is important that we preserve it for the legal practitioner, for the next generation to also benefit from. It is an attire that we should be proud of as individuals because it conveys the personalities as lawyers. Now, without prejudice to the above, there is also the exception. There are also exceptions to this rule as to how a lawyer must appear while being a matter or while engaging with other people or colleagues. Rule 42B of the lawyer shall not wear the barristers or senior advocates robe when giving evidence, whether and conduct the in the lawyer's robes. The court held that a litigant who is a legal practitioner conducts his case as a litigant and not as a legal practitioner representing himself, the litigant. So the legal practitioner cannot act both as a part and as a counsel, in the same matter. He must elect whether to argue in person or not. There cannot be a mixture of the two characters. Appearing as a litigant, his rights to appear as counsel is in abeyance. And so while you're appearing for yourself, if you decide to do your matter yourself, you're doing it as a litigant, as a party to the suit. As a party to the suit and not as counsel. So it is important that this notation is made. Now, it is also important to look at the outside court's decorum, in a formal setting, because the way a lawyer should appear, and good grooming cannot be limited to the four walls. It is not limited to the four walls of the court. So when you're in a professional setting, whether it's in an arbitration proceeding, meeting, or in a board meeting, whatever kind of meeting, whether it's a board meeting or whatever formal environment you'd find yourself, you must appear in a professional manner. While of course you cannot wear your complete attire as a lawyer in those fora, it will be important for you to dress properly. And on no account, except to the express permission of the bar counsel, shall a lawyer wear the barrister's or senior advocate's robe on any occasion other than in court, and that the breach of this rule amounts to misconduct. You can refer to Rule 45(2)(a) of the Rules of Professional Conduct. The expectation is also that in an informal setting, that a lawyer is not expected to dress anyhow. And so whether you're in a cocktail party or in any engagement that you consider informal, you must also use that opportunity to advance your personal brand. Nobody expects a lawyer to wear a suit to the beach, of course, but you must be classy. You must, for the ladies, you can be sassy if you want. You can be hot within the regimen of as of the provision of the rules of professional conduct. But you must present yourself in a way that projects yourself positively, that conveys who you are as a legal practitioner. Because the way you present yourself will have a strong impact, on a client's willingness to engage you or share information with you. So it is imperative that as legal practitioners, wherever we find ourselves, that we dress appropriately in a manner that projects dignity and respect for the legal profession. Specifically, what do we think, what do we imagine for a lawyer's dress? It is that you must dress formally and conservatively. You must dress for the occasion. What you wear must be in tandem with where you're going or where you're going to be. You must clean up. And for people who like to also be meticulous, you can have a signature style. Let's have, if you're in a business environment, we already know that when we see you, or you're probably going to appear in a bow tie and all of that. It also helps in projecting your personal brand as to how you want to be seen. Cut your coat according to your cloth. Do not try to overreach yourself or overdress, or try to look for improper means of enriching yourself so that you're able to appear in a particular manner. The expectation is that a lawyer will just be clean, dressed properly within the provisions of the rules of professional conduct. My personal advice as a lawyer, if you're looking to advance your personal brand and also distinguish yourself, that you consider one luxury item. It might be your wristwatch, it might be your shoe, it might be the quality of the suits you wear. So it's important that you consider it. It also help boost your confidence, and project yourself better. Your shoes are important. It tells a lot. In fact, when I meet you as a person, the first thing I look at is your shoe. In fact, it's almost always what every person looks at the first time. So you must dress in a proper manner. When we look at our seniors at the bar, we see they are always impeccably dressed. It is difficult for you to see a senior advocate of Nigeria, that wear worn-out shoes, or people who are, who work in certain sectors that wear worn-out shoes. So it is important that we always appear in a clean manner. We're not talking about expensive shoes, clean, polished shoes, like Justice Chukwudufio would admonish. Always dress comfortably too. Wear what you're comfortable in. Do not wear very short dress and then you're struggling all day in courts to pull it down, or you're wearing something that clearly shows other parts of your body that isn't that shouldn't be for the public space, and then you're struggling all through to dress appropriately. Even for the men as well, it is important that you wear what you're comfortable in. Wear shoes that you're comfortable in. Some days you would find that you spend your whole day in court or in a particular meeting. It is important that you wear a shoe or clothing that you're comfortable in, that you be comfortable in all through the day. So do not wear very tight shoes or clothes that will make you uncomfortable, that will make you leave the court intermittently to readjust yourself and all of that. So make sure your clothes also fit. Do not wear very bogus clothing that the first thing people see is the clothes and not you. So they are looking for you, but they've seen the clothes, but they cannot see you yet, because you're almost enveloped in what you're wearing. So let your clothes fit as a lawyer. Avoid distractive accessories and jewelries, big earrings. I see lawyers wear leg chains to courts, have piercings on the nose, and then all of that. That is not for a lawyer. That is not for a lawyer. You're not a musician. I know that there is nothing wrong in doing those things, but within our rules, the expectation is that we are conservative in our appearance, and so we're not expected to have all of those or very obvious tattoos. And if you already have a tattoo and you're going to be in a meeting or in court, try to cover up properly. No sloppy dress. Your clothes should always be clean. For the man, you cannot wear a shirt that is double cough and not have a cough link. It is improper to, so you don't appear shabby. The expectation again, both for the guys and the ladies, is that within the circumferential regimentation of our legal profession, our expectation is that we cannot make flamboyant hairstyles. You can't appear in court and your wig, you're wearing your white wig on top of a very loud red weave on and all of that. And even for the men as well, the expectation is that when you appear in court, your hair should be clean. If you're carrying an afro, make sure it's clean and all of that. And I think that some of these rules are things that even apply to us as persons. So regardless of even whether you're a lawyer or not, the expectation is that you'd have good grooming, that you dress appropriately, that you would always be clean. Of course, when you become a lawyer, it takes it a notch higher because, as stakeholders in the temple of justice, expected, of course, that we believe that our profession is distinguished and different from every other profession. And as a young lawyer, to differentiate yourself from other people, I can tell you that the first thing, one of the first things you'd have to do, aside from building your competence, is the way you appear. It is the way you appear. I do not want to tell you this, but I have a strong feeling that one of the reasons why I got my very first job when I did within a law firm was not just because I did well in the interview. I also thought it was I feel it was also because of how I appeared. It was because of how I looked. It was about how the way I spoke. It was my comportment. It was the way I engaged with the first interviewees, the associate partners, and essentially the managing partner. In fact, when I met the managing partner, he was asking questions and we had conversations that are completely unrelated to law because, the way I appeared and my person and the personal brand that I, even if I say so myself, that I projected at that point was sufficient for him to say, oh, okay, having done well in your interview, I'm happy to hire you. I'd like to bring this conversation to a close by referencing Lord Denning. And he said, remember also that whatever the tribunal, you must give a good impression. Your appearance means a lot. Dress neatly, not slovenly. Be well groomed. When you read this, of course, speaks to not just your appearance or your good grooming, but your personal branding as a lawyer. It is important. I would like to conclude by saying that in all of this conversation that we've had today, even if you do not remember any other thing, always remember that your reputation is your personal branding, and that is all you have as a lawyer, and at least as a young lawyer looking to still build his competence or her competence and project same out there. Always remember that your personal branding equals your reputation. I'd like to thank the Institute of Continuous Legal Education, particularly Mr. Tobinna Irojikwe, for organizing this platform and for giving me the opportunity to anchor this session. I would also want to take our time to thank you for finding time to join us during this conversation. It's been interesting anchoring the session, and I hope that I'm able to answer some of your questions within the allowed time. Thank you very much. And I'd like to hand over now to Tobinna and then other members of the panelists, to provide, also their thoughts in addition to what I had said, and then probably maybe fine-tune some of the things I may not have said very well. Thank you very much, and good afternoon.
Thank you very much, Nana. What an interesting and brilliant presentation from you this afternoon. I'm very grateful. Before making my comments and also taking us through question time, I'd like to say that I'm happy to note that we have quite a few panelists here with us today. I can see Mrs. Ifeoma Ota, General Counsel, MTN, and also a member of the board of the Institute of Continuing Legal Education. Toby Adebowale, who used to be very recently the chairman of the Young Lawyers Forum, and of course my good friend Max Ikomwe. I don't know whether they're all online at the moment. If you're there, do you have any comments to make? Okay.
Hi, Mr. Chairman. I'm Tobina. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm so impressed with what is going on here. This is so important and necessary in this day and age to be able to launch our young lawyers, our young colleagues into the profession, to hold their hands and to give back to, that's our way also as more senior lawyers of giving back to the society. So I applaud this initiative. And I'm very excited about my session coming up on Wednesday. I can't wait for that session. Good job, guys. Thank you.
I'm sure you know, I can't wait for your session too. If I'm be taking us on a session on building a career in the corporate world, and we can't think of a better person to anchor that session. So thanks, Ify. Toby, are you there? Okay, Max. All right, yeah, so Nana has just taken us to, okay, I can hear you.
Well, thank you, sir. So I only wanted to say I didn't want Nana to stop. I think you should have just gone on. I mean, that was an excellent presentation, and I believe that would be extremely beneficial to everyone who has joined, and just to encourage the participants to really take these things, because I mean, for some of us, when we got into the profession, we never had the opportunity of understanding what we had gotten into. Maybe it took 2-3 years, to just wing it and learn some of these things. But I believe it's a really good platform to learn and to understand, what is expected of you as a lawyer once you're getting into the profession. So thank you very much, Nana, for that. That was extremely brilliant and wonderful. Thank you very much, sir. Back to you.
Thank you, Max. Sarah, can you mute your system? Toby.
Okay. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon, everyone. And I must also especially greet Onana. Thank you for that very explosive and enlightening presentation. I myself, I was taking notes, and and it felt like I was just starting afresh in the profession as well with the kind of notes I was taking. It was really helpful, and I hope that the new Wigs would take everything line by line into consideration as they move forward, particularly the points on the use of technology, the use of social media to leverage visibility and connecting with experts in various fields, as well as creating opportunities for oneself, especially for those who may not be opportune to start with the biggest of the law firms in the country, but would perhaps have to figure out something for themselves. Social media can really help with that. And also, even if you're working with if you start out with a mid tier firm, and you are looking to join a bigger firm later on, social media can be one place to to demonstrate what you know, and also show the direction that you would like to go. The point on grooming is also very critical and very helpful, because in this day and age where people tend to adopt the word freestyle for a lot of things, and that has also crept into dressing within the profession. It's helpful to be reminded of what is important in that regard, and I hope everyone would take the lessons to heart. Thank you.
Thank you, Toby. I mean, Nana has taken us through a number of very thought-provoking ideas around personal branding. We talked about becoming a leading expert in your area. And I think the importance or significance of that cannot be overemphasized. But I would want those who look at the slides later on or listen to the presentation again to pay particular attention to the points he made around that. He paid particular attention to character. He talked about mentorship and what I would like to call role modeling. He talked extensively about the use of social media and what you could do with social media. Talked about publications, content writing, and all of that, and very brilliantly distinguished between what you can do within the context of the rules of professional conduct and outside it. He focused a lot on dressing and conduct, and I find that the presentation was very well delivered. I think it's important to make the point that the reason why this particular session is critical is that we oftentimes forget that lawyers offer an intangible service. And so 90% of the way you are treated, regarded, or the work that you do is based on people's perception of you. And to many people on earth, perception is cognitive reality. So I often say that the day a decision is made about a human being, that human being is never on the table. And so it's an amalgam of the way people look at you or who they think that you are that determines whether you're invited to the table. It determines whether you get something ahead of the other. And in all that Nana has said, I think that for me, it is that he talks about a consciousness in anything and everything that you do. And so I will leave you with my own little piece before going to question time, that as you evolve in your career as lawyers, it's important that you're first an intelligent human being before you become a brilliant lawyer, so that everything you do must be put in context. All the things Nana has talked about are things that we must be conscious of. The reason why there are not many professions in the world where professional conduct and ethics is a primary aspect of the training of that person in the profession, where we lay emphasis on how people dress, how they comport themselves, how they conduct themselves, even taking us through dinners. So whether you're training in England or in Nigeria, how you eat, how you speak, your general conduct. So thank you very much, Nana, for this very brilliant presentation. I think we have just a few questions here. And the first that I can see is, how do you keep your brand relevant and responsive if you shift careers? What steps do you take to rebuild your brand in a new space? Well, Nana, I think this is right down your alley. Nana, okay, good.
Okay. Yes, I'm here. All through the conversation, we did maintain that your personal brand then must be consistent. Your personal brand does not change because you've changed career. It does not change because you're in a different environment. It is who you are. It is the unique abilities that you have. And so I also, while going through the charts, I also saw the question about the difference between, it can be likened to the same question, whether the difference between your personal brand and a social media influencer. A social media influencer is simply looking to create impressions. And beginning of the conversation, we started by defining or seeing what's, in advertising, understand why marketers or people, advertisers would want to create impressions, or why, as a young lawyer using social media, you would want to create impression because you want to drive, traffic to your page, or you want to gain more business and then all of that. But that will not sustain your business. It will sustain your career. It is the personal branding that sustains your career. So the impression that you've created is a way of attracting the business and visibility to yourself to not sustain the business. So or your chief. So your personal branding is not the impression, you're not a social media influencer, as it were. Those are distinguishable, and your personal brand remains the same. So the Nana you see today should be not the same Nana you see tomorrow. Even if I change career, even if I become a musician, I begin to do something else. It is, these qualities are unique to me. They are not to me. You cannot appropriate same to Tobin Nairo Chikwe or Max or someone else. So it is consistent. So your personal branding does not change simply because you've had career shifts or you're seeking advancement on the circles. Thank you.
Thank you, Nana. You've just managed to take all the questions at once, symptomatic of your personality. But thank you very much always for being so kind. What I always say to people who log in here is that one of the most important things that a lawyer has is time. And for a lawyer, more than any other professional, time means money. So when colleagues spend their time like this, for no fee at all, to train, teach, and inspire fellow colleagues, we at the Institute of Continuing Education are very grateful to them always. So Nana, thank you very much for an extremely brilliant and indeed well thought through presentation. Thank you for having sent your slides out to us early and we had to circulate them. Somebody was asking the question about how they'll get the slides. At the end of each session, we normally put all the slides together and send them out to all the participants. So thank you very much for Ifeoma for being here today, Toby, Max, Sarah, and everyone else. And thank you to the delegates that turned up. And I look forward to seeing you all again on Wednesday when we tune in to listen to Ifeoma's presentation. Thank you very much and God bless you all. See you soon. Bye-bye.